Welcome to the C45 Association's official YouTube channel. The following presentation is brought to you with support from Sigma Analytical Services with the C45 Association. Sigma Analytical is the only cannabis lab with cross-continental operations in the world and the first cannabis-focused GMP certified lab in Canada. Our service goes beyond a full panel of testing and also covers stability studies, cleaning validation, formulation and product development support, and more. We have been a front runner in testing Cannabis 2.0 products and have validated methods for vape cartridges and a variety of edibles, topicals, and beverages. Sigma is also Shoppers Drug Mart's partner in medical cannabis by Shoppers and Ecolab's exclusive partner in Canada and South America to run cleaning validation studies for cannabis processors and producers. Our short and dependable turnaround times, in addition to accurate and reliable results and outstanding client support, has made Sigma the preferred lab for many LPs. Sigma also offers support on consulting projects for the producers and labs in Canada, Colombia, the US, and beyond. From method development, validation, and transfer, to support for designing, setting up, and running in-house or independent cannabis labs. For any questions or to start a discussion on how we can assist you, please don't hesitate to contact us. We hope you enjoy the following presentation, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more quality content.
Hello, and welcome to the Cannabis Tourism panel. My name is Susan Dupej, and I research cannabis tourism through the University of Guelph, and I am so thrilled to be here today with you to moderate a discussion amongst a group of exceptional human beings who are pioneers in the cannabis tourism industry. So today we're going to talk to them and we're going to get their expert insights on why a grower might want to consider cannabis tourism as a part of their business strategy. So you will get the perspective from a tourism operator. So let's meet our panelists. I would love to introduce you. Our first panelist is Dave Dormer. Hi, Dave.
Hello.
And Dave, he has been a journalist for the past 23 years and a stoner for the past 22. He has combined his two passions to create Cannabis, Alberta's first cannabis tourism company that focuses on the history of cannabis. Dave does weekend tours to Cannabis country, which is a popular area in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. And he also does evening tours in in Calgary at the Heritage Park, which is Canada's largest living historical museum. And so this is where guests can come and experience a unique smoke session while exploring Dave's unique collection of cannabis history, which includes, by the way, a copy of the handwritten court record of one of the first Canadians convicted of possession in the 1930s. So that is Dave. Now let me introduce you to Goldie Solodar. Goldie is the founder. Hi, Goldie. I should wave to Goldie. I waved to Dave. Hi, Goldie. Goldie is the founder and CEO of City Sessions Denver, which is a cannabis tourism and lifestyle brand that specializes in immersive experiences, and they have an educational focus. She's a consumer, but she's also a business owner, which gives her a very unique position to speak to the industry from a 360-degree viewpoint. And her experience has given her an expert understanding of the different types of cannabis tourists, which has enabled her to create these platforms and services to deliver customer education around cannabis. How amazing is that? So let's jump into it, you guys. The first question I want to ask you both as tourism providers is, how do you see growers being a part of cannabis tourism? From your perspective, what are the opportunities? Dave, maybe I'll start with you, and then we'll go over to you, Goldie, and talk about what's happening in your neck of the woods in Colorado. Dave, go ahead.
I see growers being a huge part of the cannabis tourism sector because growers are growing cannabis plants and cannabis users will want to see those plants. They're illegal in 99% of the world. And so it makes them very interesting. And there is, right now in Canada especially, legality happened, we're only 3 years in, so the cannabis tourism marketplace is still being formed. And so there's a lot of opportunity right now for growers to sort of get in at the ground level, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. How about you, Goldie? How are maybe growers play a different role in Colorado? I don't know. Tell us what's happening down there. What's your experience?
Well, in Colorado, we have a lot of licensed growers, and what we're seeing happen in our marketplace is growers are now forming their own brands. And to be able to tour through a garden and bring forward a brand in what they specialize in, whether it's unique terpene profiles or OG genetics, or a specific methodology that's unique to them, it really kind of helps stand the brand apart from everything else that's going on in the marketplace. It's also a nice opportunity to introduce the consumer to the grow process. Very similar to what we're seeing in Napa Valley with wine tours. It's kind of a way to bring cannabis full circle and then also have the consumer attached to a brand. Right now, here in the States, brands are state to state. As we move forward with federal legalization, I believe that we're going to see brands cross state lines. And it's going to be a really nice opportunity for people to find their niche, and then through cannabis tourism, really kind of bring that brand to life.
Now, Dave, I know that farm to gate is something that is being discussed in Alberta, British Columbia. Ontario just received its first license on 420, actually. So this is something that's in the process. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about that, and maybe how you are involved in moving forward that very industry that's being defined at this moment, because you are one of the key players doing this?
Yeah, farm to gate is that is going to be a huge opportunity for growers, especially in the tourism market. And what it basically is in a nutshell is selling what you farm at your gate. Farmers being able to sell directly to consumers. Here in Alberta, I'm also part of the Alberta Cannabis Micro License Association, the ACMLA. We are talking to the AGLC, that regulates cannabis in Alberta. They are open to the idea about farm to gate. And they're sort of waiting to see. Right now in Alberta, because we only have about a dozen or just a little over a dozen growers, no one has actually applied for the license in Alberta. But over in British Columbia, the Williams Lake First Nations band they've been approved to open a farm to gate operation this summer. And in Ontario, I believe it was 5 licenses have been approved. Thrive, first one, they're moving forward. It's a little bit different right now. It's not going to be a true farm to gate to start, because it's basically going to allow producers to up a storefront. And that is sort of the first step to farm to gate, because the reason in Alberta that they're a little bit hesitant right now is because the big issue is regulatory compliance. And the governing bodies want to make sure that the product isn't just plucked from the vine or plucked from the plant and given to a person. You know, it has to go through certain steps, and it's those steps that, you know, these first operations, kind of like, you know, us as pioneers in the tourism industry, it's the people like Thrive that are actually going to do the farm to gate operation, that are going to sort of set the standard and you know, pave the way for us. But the fact that it's happened is a massive step, and you know, I expect that once Thrive is up and going and they sort of show that it can be done, then that's really going to open the door to all the other provinces and, you know, to form the model.
Yeah, it's still very much in the beginning stages, like in pilot mode, essentially.
Yeah.
So they'll be watching
Yeah,
it. They'll be
but
watching
farm to gate
it.
is really, that's where growers, like, that is the growers' sort of avenue into tourism, the strongest one for them, and sort of the easiest way, you know, and it's the way to sort of, you know, when you talk about branding, because branding and advertising in cannabis, that's the hardest part about running a cannabis company, because there's so many rules on where you can and can't advertise and how you can and can't brand. But if you have something like a farm to gate where you can have a store, you know, that's sort of another avenue for you.
Goldie, can you tell us?
This is a model that we see here. We see this model here in Colorado. It's actually the only reason why I'm able to function with tourism, because it's bringing a brand like all encompassing, where we tour through their garden and then we go through their store and we buy their brand.
Really?
So so we had forced vertical integration here in Colorado back in 2014. You had to grow your own cannabis and sell it out your front door. It was the state's way of ensuring that they knew where the cannabis product was actually coming from. It was a trackability, and to ensure that no diversion was happening either. But with that, it was really interesting because it allowed mom and pops to get in with their own brands. We've seen a lot of evolution here in the marketplace, with saturation and all sorts of different things happening. And now we're also seeing brands pre-package and end up on other dispensary shelves. So branding is definitely evolving here in Colorado. But the only reason why I'm able to function is because I partner with 3 different vertically integrated operations that grow their own cannabis and sell it out their front door. And I'm able to tell the full circle story of that brand from seed to sale.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you said that you take them through a garden so they can actually see the plant growing. I'm just wondering about the types of regulations that might be behind that, because I think they are different from what we see in Canada.
Totally. So there's a lot of regulation. I like to joke that the Colorado cannabis industry is as regulated as nuclear and milk. So as a licensed operator, you're not allowed to, when I say licensed operator, a grower or a dispensary, you're not allowed to accept payment for tourists to come through. However, I'm ancillary, so I can accept payment for a tour. I partner with the brand, and then there's a series of regulations that we go through. Everyone is signed in at the front desk. Their driver's license number is written down. They're badged up. We are escorted through the facility with a licensed badged associate of that facility. And then other than that, just things to know, the entire facility is outfitted with cameras. They're all a certain amount of feet apart. Our regulatory agency can come through and pull 40 days of footage at any given time. But in terms of the tourism aspect of it, it's really just getting signed in and ensuring that we are accompanied by a badged employee of that facility. Okay. Other things that are top of mind for growers that I think is very important to bring forward, contamination. You know, everyone is very concerned about contamination of their plants. All of our plants here in Colorado go through third-party testing for microbials, as well as we have a list of regulated and unregulated pesticides. And then we also test for potency. So if you fail microbial testing, you are forced to blast your flower into a concentrate and have it resold. I think it's the biggest pain point in the Colorado or the industry in general, allowing people to come through your garden because you don't know where they're coming from. I have strict policies with my business. I do all my own sales, so I ensure that everyone that tours with us has not been through a garden that same day. And if they have been through a garden with, like, let's say another tourism company, that they change their shoes the next day and their clothing. So it's really important to protect your partners, so this business works. And I can tell you, I've been without incident now. This is my 7th year. So it's doable, but it's really an understanding with your farmer about what you're willing to do to protect them as well.
Okay, so partnerships play a really big role in this, right? Working together, collaborating. What I'm
And the
curious
from people like me is, I was going to say that I'm sort of following the route that Goldie has paved. In, it's very helpful for us to have that to sort of look at and say, okay, what worked, what didn't, what do we need to do? So it actually makes me setting up my business a lot easier because I have someone like Goldie that's already sort of gone through all the trials and tribulations.
Okay, so then Dave, tell me, I have another question for you, Goldie, but Dave, just since we're on that subject, tell me what you see, like, in terms of your business. How do you see incorporate, like, in the future, when you see Farm to Gate opening up, when it does in Alberta? How do you see your business being incorporated into that?
I see us branching totally into that. When I started Kananaskis, if we go back, I started this one day after legalization, basically, October 18th, 2018 was the day I incorporated. And one of the first people I reached out to was Goldie. And she sort of told me, this is what you're going to need to know. This is what you're facing. It's not easy. There's a lot of work. And my first idea for Kananaskis was I wanted to do tours of facilities. And I actually went and met with Boaz, Dave Isaac. They're an awesome company here in Calgary. I went and met with them to do facility tours, and we, not that we ran into a lot of the problems, but we were up against a lot of the same issues that Goldie has in terms of, keeping the facility clean, signing people in. When I started working through all of that, for us up here, it was the insurance piece. His insurance company really didn't like the idea. And so that kind of put it on the back burner for the time being. I pivoted a little bit into, the history side more and doing the tours. But now that Farm to Gate is sort of coming back in, I think it's going to be a lot better for the smaller players because, Boaz is a bit of a larger grower. So, this really opens the door for me to start forming partnerships with various different people. And it really opens the door for the, the smaller growers to really get in the market and find their place. And I think both of us, I think for me and for growers as soon as Farm to Gate happens in the next 5 years, that's really when I'm going to see the business grow and sort of become a solid business.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Goldie, can you tell me what is the appeal, based on your experience, what is the appeal to people in coming to these facilities, going on tour, and being able to buy cannabis at the end? Like, what has been the reaction?
Cannabis tourism is very new. The cannabis industry is very new. And there is this appeal to kind of see what has been growing in our basements or in Humboldt County for so many years, but now, like, on a legal level. And the fact that you can actually go to a dispensary and purchase your cannabis legally out of a storefront instead of, a backdoor deal with your guy or your gal. I mean, it just kind of takes some of that fear factor out, that stigma that we've all lived with as cannabis consumers pre legalization. So, I'm not the only game in town here in Colorado. I have a competitor that does large scale bus tours. It's like the same route every single time, and it's a nice way to engage with other people that are also cannabis consumers along the way. My business is very different. I specialize in private custom tours of the industry with an educational focus, and I cater to four main demographic groups. So I service first-time consumers, regular consumers, industry investors, and medical patients. Every single tour, regardless of what demographic group you fall into, there is an educational aspect to the tour. And I have identified, being in the industry now, this is my 7th year, that education is the biggest gap in the cannabis industry, especially here in the United States with the scheduling still being Schedule 1. I don't get basic marketing benefits, so I can't boost a post. I can't pay-per-click advertise. And I have a full education platform on my website that's a self-serving platform, just about cannabis education, nothing for sale, that I am unable to push out there. So what I find is my clients like to come in and they're blown away when we get into the different aspects of the plant, how it interacts with your body chemistry, bringing it to life with the walkthrough of the garden and breaking down the plant, in person, and then getting to the dispensary counter and really breaking down the product line. So my guests really understand how to navigate cannabis based on a desired effect they're looking to achieve or ailment they're looking to combat. For myself and for my guests, this is beyond just a how high experience. This is really how to incorporate cannabis as a lifestyle and to have an elevated experience along the way versus feeling stony baloney and not really remembering what has happened. So it's really interesting to kind of understand the immersiveness of the experience and why it is important. And people really they enjoy the education more than they would have ever known that they were going to, because it's written on my website, but when it starts coming to life, you just see light bulbs going off in people's head. And my favorite one is, I always tell people, you always want to pair your edible with a meal or a fatty food because THC binds to fat, which accelerates the onset of the high and enhances the high in general. That does not resonate with people. When you say, so if you're feeling too high from an edible, don't eat a cheeseburger, it's just going to make you feel higher. That's when the light bulbs go off in everyone's head. They're like, oh, I remember I had pizza. No wonder I got so high. And it's really a nice way for them to attach to certain educational information that they've gained along the way, so they don't have a negative experience with the plant, even post-tour. Yeah.
How important is the farmer in that whole process, in showing the consumer the whole operation? Does the farmer play a role? Like, how connected are they, I'm wondering?
So some of the facilities I tour through, the farmer actually gives the tour. Others, it's myself that gives the tour. I think that the biggest aspect of the grow is really kind of seeing the full process from seed to cure, and really understanding what goes into producing cannabis, either indoors or outdoors. We really dive into this conversation of cannabinoids and terpenes, trichromes housing cannabinoids and terpenes, which is the cannabis experience, and how these growers are really facilitating and pumping life into their plants beyond just feeding them water to get the most out of the cannabis plant. This is the only plant that we treat this way. I mean, these ladies want to be fed regularly. They want to live in a certain climate. They want good airflow. A lot of my growers like to play music because they believe that their plants like to be like sang to. There's a whole culture in the back end of growing, and I think that it's really unique to be able to see what goes into this operation, because it's not just a one and done. These are perpetual harvests. you're cutting down plants, you're cleaning out a room, you're refilling that room. And there's a lot of work that goes into this. So I think from a grower's perspective, it's really kind of being able to showcase their hard work and their end result.
Mm-hmm. And Dave, I remember talking to you previously. We were having a discussion about how, in addition to cannabis being not available during prohibition times, the information surrounding cannabis wasn't available. And so people are really thirsty for that. And the production end of that commodity chain is a really important element of it. Now, Dave, we were talking about barriers. You mentioned insurance being one of them, also regulation, although that seems to be on the move. I'm wondering what else might there be in terms of barriers for a grower who might be interested in taking part in cannabis tourism? This might speak to them.
I mean, one of the barriers might be that they might not have even thought of tourism as something they could be a part of. I think that a lot of growers kind of see themselves siloed as, I produce the product, the store sells the product, then there's the tour that shows the product. And they've never really thought you can actually put those three things together and make an experience, and make an experience that everybody wants to be a part of. We touched on the insurance, the government regulation is going to be another one. And then for some growers, depending on their setup, the actual physical logistics of their operation, does that allow for people coming into their facility? And some people, do you want people coming into your facility? Somebody might have some super top secret method of growing cannabis that they don't want their competition coming and seeing. So there's all different reasons.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think too, you were mentioning the marketing too, Goldie. I think maybe that's maybe an issue too as well in the States. It's something that's an issue in Canada. Now, what are there current supports available for growers that are interested in getting involved in cannabis tourism? I don't know, maybe Goldie, that might be more established down where you are. Maybe you could talk about that.
I wouldn't say there's anything necessarily in place. I think that when I look at our market, who has kind of signed on to this, it's been for a variety of different reasons. We have a beautiful outdoor brand on the Western Slope called Pot Zero. Pot Zero has zero carbon footprint, which I just think is an amazing mission for cannabis. And they had partnered up with a tourism company to do this outdoor grow tour to kind of showcase what it looks like to grow outside. When you grow outdoors here in Colorado, you get one harvest a year. So you have to remember that cannabis tourism in that regard, you're seeing plants at a specific stage of life when you're looking at plants outdoor versus an indoor garden where you're seeing plants in different phases of life. So very interesting in that regard. We have another model here, which is a very large scale cultivation attached to a dispensary. And their big play was to invite these large busloads of people through, take them through their garden, and then filter them through their front door. What was great about that business model for the grower and the dispensary is it's, a guaranteed 60 people a day, more over what you're already seeing. That's increasing, your revenue in your store and pushing your product out your front door. My model is definitely different. Coming back to Dave and this micro grow model that I really like. I work with 2 mom and pop grows. There are 2 of 15 that are actually left in Denver. We've seen mass consolidation over the past 7 years, and that there's a multitude of reasons for that. But I like working with the mom and pop grower. I call it a craft model. They grow enough cannabis and they sell it right out their front door. For me, supporting the craft grower really makes sense in my model. first, I'm boutique. Two, I offer private tours. I have a marketing arm that supports their brand on top of it. And I'm a cannabis snob. So I believe that my guests should only consume the top quality cannabis in the state of Colorado. And typically what you see is as you scale up in cultivation, quality tends to come down. So it is a really nice opportunity for when Canada moves forward to really showcase this craft model. And it's a really big reason for the smaller grower to get into cannabis tourism, because it's hard to compete with big players that are able to get their price per pound down because they're at scale. And this is a way to maintain price and quality and showcase that. Don't get me wrong, I also work with a larger scale grow that's an established brand here in the market. I like working with them because it's definitely showing the process at scale. I run specific tours through specific facilities based on what my clientele is looking for. So for me, it's a nice opportunity to have a variety of different styles of business models, cultivation business models, to be able to showcase based on the demographic that I'm bringing through. Did I answer that question?
Yes. No, you did.
Okay.
And much more.
Okay, good.
What was that, Dave?
I was going to say we have, because and when I'm working with part of the reason that I joined the Alberta Cannabis Micro License Association, so I guess this would be my opportunity to pitch everyone listening to check out the ACMLA, because one of our goals is to do advocacy for tourism and try and really bring growers together and advance the tourism side for growers. And sort of seeing what's happening in Colorado, taking all the bests of that, but then sort of trying to bring together a group of people, because numbers are stronger.
In the future, do you see it developing similar to wine tourism?
Oh, 100%. It would be, it's a very similar model.
Okay. Where people get to go around.
I agree. I think that we're going to see some pain points in terms of regulation. I'm not 100% sure how Canada is going to do it, but we have state by state programs here in the United States. And I'm going to be honest with you, our programs are very disjointed. No two programs look the same. So to be able to take your model and replicate it into other states, you're dealing with a whole different set of regulations and compliance that you have to kind of jump through. I do see us having a similar model. I believe we're going to see more of this outdoor cultivation in terms of tourism. So it might be more located in Humboldt County or in Colorado on our western slope, where you're able to kind of do something similar to what Dave is doing, make an immersive experience where you walk through a garden, you get an education, and then you sit down and you have a meal and a sampling session. You kind of bring it together in that kind of regard, similar to tasting rooms at a Napa Valley winery.
Yeah. Exactly, Dave.
And I agree with the outdoor, because outdoor, just the logistics involved in touring outdoor is so much easier than an indoor. 100%. And we have, here near Calgary, we're going to have some outdoor grows.
That's another really good point, in that not only is it a way for micro growers to expand their businesses, but in a time like this, we're in a pandemic. And so it opens up sort of another avenue of possibilities, I think. And it gives that chance for the grower to be connected to the consumer. Goldie, I don't know, maybe is this an important point too to make, that maybe you've experienced in your tours?
Yes. So I'm very fortunate. I do 15 to 20% of my business every year in repeat business. So people come back, they bring their friends and their family. And when they call me, the first thing they ask is, can we go back to dank, or can we go back to the herbal cure? They've attached to that brand, to that experience. And they want to show their friends that experience. Not that they wouldn't get a similar experience if we went through another cultivation and I brought through a different brand, but it's really nice that, they come back and they want to go see that same cultivation, or they want to shop at that store. I can tell you, I have plenty of friends and family that will come to town and they'll come by my house. They'll be like, I already stopped at the dispensary. Dank is my favorite. And it's, they've attached to the brand, they've attached to the quality. They've also attached to that customer service experience behind the counter, where they felt comfortable coming in with the tour and they feel comfortable going back with themselves. And I think that is a really big part of tourism. It really helps make the consumer comfortable with this new culture and this new cultural experience of being able to purchase legal cannabis and then simultaneously attached to brands that you learn about along the way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Dave, have you had that experience too?
I have not, because I haven't actually started working with the growers yet, but that is my plan. I'm really hoping to replicate a lot of what Goldie has done, because like I am in such an advantageous position because I get to look and see what she did and what worked and say, okay, do that, do more of that. And don't do that. Even I'm saying there's strength in numbers with the growers working together, but there's also strength in numbers with the tourism, because Goldie's had, she's had to go and sort of pave the way for the first few years, and I talked to tour operators in California, in Washington, and you really, it makes life a lot easier for me to be able to, have her say, like when I started this 2 years ago, we talked probably on the phone for about an hour, and she basically laid out like, here's all the pitfalls you have to watch out for. And it made life a lot easier for me over the last 2 years.
Right.
And that's part of what I'm doing with ACMLA is I want to bring the growers together and make life easier for each other.
To kind of piggyback on what Dave is talking about, I think relationships are very important in the cannabis industry, and I think that we need to bring those forward. I have two large competitors here in the Colorado market. I kind of have set myself apart in my own niche. One of them never came back after COVID. And then my other competitor got locked out of his cultivation when COVID hit. And I have always been big on knowing my community, building mutually beneficial relationships along the way. And I was able to make an introduction for my competition to a cultivation that it was mutually beneficial for them both to come together. And they've been doing great work together. It's a really nice opportunity to drive more business through the store, to showcase the farmer's brand, and then also have an avenue for my competition to continue to operate and showcase a garden and a really beautiful store. So, I think that relationships, multiple relationships, knowing that, things go awry in tourism, and to know that you can pick up the phone and you have another grower that you can showcase and you can really start building that relationship. So it is mutually beneficial for all. That's really how this all works at the end of the day.
Right. And I guess that would be having relationships as a type of support. I suppose I asked that question earlier, right? So that would be a good point. But another good point to make here too is that, what tourism does is it links the consumer to the product. Dave, even though you're not doing farm to gate yet, you still are linking the consumer to the retail establishment. So at least it's the place of purchase, right? And so you are linking people to particular, maybe not production facilities, but definitely to certain brands, right? And that's all part of it, right?
Yeah, one of the first things that I had to do once I developed the tour and I was ready to go, it was like, okay, I need a place to not operate out of, but sort of start at. I need a dispensary. And so I reached out and I've made some great relationships. We start at 5 cannabis in Bridgeland here in Calgary, they have been nothing but supportive toward me and toward tourism. And that's really helped me sort of grow. And I've also, I have a great relationship with the folks at Boaz. Here we have another Ojin in Calgary. And the really great thing right now is we're started getting to the point where, we're seeing, I think there's a dozen now micro cultivators in the province. We're hoping to double that in the next year. So this is a really big time in terms of growth, and it's important to sort of formulate relationships, which I like to think I'm doing, and it's actually that to me that's one of the best parts of this industry is the people you meet, because I met great people through this, and and sort of they give me ideas and say, oh, have you thought of this? Can we try this? And it's like, yes.
Yeah, it's a supportive industry, and there's communication that seems to happen between people, is my experience at any rate. So I want to know what are your lessons from your point of view? What are some of the biggest lessons or the best lessons that you have for growers from your experience that you might be able to provide us with?
I'll go first because I haven't learned that many yet. But for me, the big lesson that I've learned is that tourism is going to be a huge opportunity for branding and for growth, and just in terms of getting your name out there, and like you said, forming that relationship with the consumer, and and really setting yourself apart from other growers and other companies in the cannabis space. I think that's the biggest lesson that I would say the grower can take away is that it's a bigger part of your business than you might think.
Okay. All right. How about you, Goldie?
I guess for me, lessons for growers, and a part of this is an opinion, but I'll just go with it. There's nothing proprietary in these grows. Like, your proprietary aspect of your garden is your formulation, your nutrient line. There's infinite numbers of ways to grow in veg, 18 hours of light, 20 hours of light, 24 hours of light, LED. We've all seen it. There's nothing proprietary about this. So when I approach a new garden and they're like, oh, we have all this proprietary information. No, you don't. I just know you don't. So that's one. Two, I get a lot of pushback about cross-contamination. I'm sorry, no one from New York City stepping off a plane is dragging a pest through your garden. It's your growers that have, basement grows at the end of the day. So, recognizing like why you're putting your own roadblocks up for cannabis tourism, I think is really important. And again, we're back to relationships. I've done business with the same growers now for 5 years one and 6 years another. There's been zero issues with contamination. We have protocols in place. They trust me that I'm vetting all of my clients at the end of the day that I'm bringing through. So it has been a very seamless process to work with my groups. But I think that when I see about this pushback that growers specifically give, it really, it's a little bit nonsensical. I just want to say that. And I work with 3 cultivators in the cannabis market. They've all been in the market for over a decade in legal cannabis operators. I have to work with the OGs, the originals of the industry, because they understand. And a lot of times you see these newbies that really don't know very much about cannabis growing, and they're getting into this and they have a lot of fear factors. It's not your people getting off the plane from Toronto that are going to be dragging pests into your garden. I think it's really important to know. You guys, I am so sorry. I have got to get off this call. And it's been awesome. If you want to put up my information, I'm happy to continue the conversation, but I have back-to-back tours starting in 25 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Goldie. Apologies. Thank you so
Goldie.
much.
No, so good.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Bye. Okay, with that, we will wrap things up. So Dave, any last words of wisdom you have for us? Any pieces of advice or trends possibly that you see maybe for cannabis tourism more broadly?
I would just say, as growers, think about tourism, embrace it, and know that what you are doing is a very unique thing. I mean, most growers already know that, but it is something that everybody wants to see and everybody wants to be a part of. And I would really like to help make that happen.
Everybody go and contact Dave. Dave, how can people contact you? Give us your contact information.
I can go through my website, cannanascus.com, and that's C-A-N-N-A-S-K, Cannanascus, C-A-N-N-A-N-A-S-K-I-S.com. Or Dave Dormer at cannanascus.com is my email, or you can just Google me and look me up.
Okay, awesome. So everybody go and do that. The one last thing that I just want to mention with respect to trends, there's one thing that I've seen with that's going on out there that maybe would affect micro growers, people that we've been talking about today. And that's the idea of the appellation of origin. This is something that has been going on in California, and essentially it connects agricultural products to their geographic areas of origin. So essentially, agricultural products have specific set of unique qualities that are based exclusively on particular environments, specific soil conditions, climates, but also there are human factors involved, right, in terms of the types of knowledge that has accumulated in a cultivation community over time and that is embedded in place. And so California is taking advantage of this, right? Speaking of history and how we can incorporate legacy people with this type of knowledge into maybe the legal stream of things. So Farm to Gate is going to play a big role in that, because looking far into the future, I can definitely see people traveling to places for the cannabis of that place and being able to consume the cannabis of that place in that place. And so who better to look to than our Farm to Gate, than our growers to be part of this process. So thank you, everyone. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you to all the panelists that joined us. Thank you to the Growing Summit. So thanks again, and we'll see everybody next time. Bye for now.